Hello, everyone. Good evening, friends, family, honored guests, and the graduating class of 2018. My name is Yacoub, and I'm president of the Triton Engineering Student Council, also known as TESC. On behalf of TESC, along with the IDEA Engineering Student Center, I would like to welcome you all to the 12th annual Yacoub School Ring Ceremony. Congratulations, graduates. You should be proud of what you've accomplished, both as individuals and collectively as the class of 2018. It is an honor and privilege to share this momentous occasion with you. You are engineers. You hold the power to do great things. Let this ring that you received today be a reminder of that. The ring is not only a symbol of your responsibility as an engineer, but your permanent connection to the Yacoub School of Engineering. You've gained more than an education here. You've grown with a family that you'll continue to be part of as engineering alumni. And without further delay, I'd like to introduce the Dean of the Yacoub School of Engineering, Pizanno. Dean Pizanno holds the Walter J. Zabel Chair in Engineering and serves on the faculty of the departments of the Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering and Electrical and Computer Engineering. Prior to UCSD, Dean Pizanno served on the UC Berkeley faculty. As the FANUC Endowed Chair of Mechanical Systems, he held faculty appointments in mechanical engineering and in electrical engineering and computer sciences. In 2001, Dean Pizanno was elected to the National Academy of Engineering for contributions to the design, fabrication, commercialization, and educational aspects of MEMS. He is a fellow of the American Society of Mechanical Engineering and an awardee of the Thomas Eggleston Medal for the Distinguished Engineering Achievement. Please welcome to the podium, Dean Pizanno.
Okay, before we get formally started, who was here for the morning all-campus commencement? All right, so you know the drill. Hang on for 3 seconds. You know what to do. Are there any engineers in this house? All right, that was pretty good. Hang on a second. All right, so thank you, everybody. That was great. My name's Pizanno. I am the dean, unless I get kicked out for having pulled that stunt here with you guys. I'd like to congratulate all of you, but most importantly, moms, dads, friends, girlfriends, all of you out in the hinterland. We thank you very, very much as well. All right, without all the people in the back, all the people in the front would have had a heck of a harder time getting through. And I know we made you work hard, but you got there, so that's what's most important. I would also like to thank Paul Cow from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, as well as Dr. Daniela Valdez-Yazo from the Department of Bioengineering. They're going to read all the names of the graduates tonight as we do the ringing. Thank you very much ahead of time. So, as Yacoub mentioned, this is the 12th year of the Yacoub School of Engineering Ring Ceremony, and here begins the last formal, but just 6-minute lecture that you ever have to hear on this campus again, because one of the most important parts of the ceremony is to explain the origins and why the oath you're taking is so important. Now, I know some of you may have read ahead, but I'm not presuming that. So if you didn't check out the reader from the library, I'll go through it here for you. All right. So the ring ceremony, as we conducted here, has its origins in a bridge disaster. Indeed, the Quebec Bridge, which crosses the St. Lawrence River in Quebec, Canada, is the origin for this. It had a total length of 1,000 meters, and the main span was 550 meters, and for nearly 100 years, it was the world's longest cantilever steel truss bridge. So this was, let's just say, a big reach for making something bigger than ever before. Now, on August 29th, 1907, the bridge construction had been going for about 4 years, and very close to the end of the completion of the work, the bridge collapsed and 75 workers were killed. So after the investigation, it was determined that design errors in calculating the self-weight of the bridge had occurred. Very embarrassing. So a redesign and reconstruction began the following year. Now remember, 1907 it collapses. In 1916, 9 years later, when the bridge was almost completed, again, the central span collapsed, killing 13 more workers, and it took them till 1919 to get that bridge open, and it operates safely today. Now, following the Quebec Bridge disasters, members of the Engineering Institute of Canada believed that it's time for a standard of ethics and responsibility to be created for engineers, and at their request, the British author Rudyard Kipling in 1922 created the ritual of the calling of an engineer. And Rudyard Kipling had much depth of feeling for engineers. He saw them as builders of things that are supposed to benefit all of humankind. So I won't go through the entire ritual, but I'll call out a couple of high points. So the words of the ritual are indeed a call to your professional integrity and responsibility. And part of it goes this way, and forgive the 17th century English, okay, or 18th century English. I, in the presence of these, my betters and my equals in my calling, bind myself upon my honor and upon a cold iron, that, to the best of my knowledge and power, I will never henceforward suffer or pass or be privy to the passing of any bad workmanship or faulty material in anything, in aught that concerns my works before mankind as an engineer, or in my dealings with my own soul before my Maker. My time I will not refuse, my thoughts I will not grudge, my care I will not deny toward the honor, use, stability, and perfection of any works to which I may be called to set my hand. For my assured failures and derelictions, I ask pardon beforehand of my betters and my equals in my calling here assembled, praying that in the hour of my temptations or weakness or weariness, the memory of this, my formal obligation, and the memory of this, the company in front of I swear, may return to me that aid, comfort, and restraint. So upon my honor and upon cold iron, God help me, by these things I propose to abide. So I'll tell you, that's an oath from the old school, all right? That's a true, serious oath. So in 1970, the Order of the Ring ceremony was started in the United States, and here it's done with a stainless steel ring. At the Yacoub School, our students, over 12 years ago, decided to create their own ring ceremony, and I ask you to accept and interpret most seriously and with pride the meaning and purpose of this ceremony to which you're about to subscribe. And that purpose is you are going to uphold the standards and the dignity of the engineering profession. So remember, you spent long, hard hours and years learning how to do it. You're now going to swear that you're going to do it right, and you're not going to put up with anybody else doing it wrong either. And that's what makes me proud about Yacoub's engineering students. So, as you leave here today as an engineer with the experience that changed the world and with the vision to realize the impossible, remember your oath. You won't take it yet, so you have a last chance to flee for the exit, but I've never seen anyone shrink from taking this oath. So let's get started tonight by bringing back Yacoub, and he can properly introduce our keynote speaker, and after that, our student keynote speaker. All right, Yacoub, it's back to you.
Thank you, Dean Pizanno. I would like to now introduce our keynote speaker for the evening, Brandon Nixon. Brandon earned his bachelor's degree in computer engineering from UCSD and later pursued an MBA from the Stanford Graduate School of Business. He spent nearly 2 decades in a variety of executive roles, including at Hewlett-Packard and Texas Instruments. As Brandon's career progressed, he became the CEO of Enterdyne Technologies, which was eventually acquired by Viasat. Brandon joined Lytx from Viasat as senior vice president and is now currently the chairman and CEO. Like many Tritons, our keynote speaker is an adventurer. He started his journey right here as a curious and passionate student. Tonight, he joins us to share the importance of staying true to your dreams and taking risks. Please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Mr. Brandon Nixon.
Thank you, Yacoub, for that wonderful introduction. It is such an honor for me to be here tonight. 30 years ago, I was sitting right where you are now, eager to get my diploma and make my mark on this world. So I know very well that the only thing between you and some well-earned graduate celebrations is this ceremony and me. So please bear with me as I tell you a few stories of what can happen as we go through this grand adventure we call life. But first, let me tell you how I got to UCSD. I grew up playing sports. I was about to enter my sophomore year at another college in Arizona when my basketball coach got a call from the basketball coach here at UC San Diego. He asked, "We need a guard who can shoot and gets good grades. Know anybody?" So the next day, my dad and I are in a pickup truck headed to San Diego. As he drops me off at temporary housing, the totality of my belongings were 2 boxes, a basketball, and a bike. And as life would have it, the bike got stolen in the first week. So now I'm down to 2 boxes and a ball. And no clue. You know that feeling when you're in the ocean and you get hit by a wave and you're tumbling underwater and you don't exactly know which way is up? That's how it felt for me when I came to campus. I had so much to figure out, but something happened early in my life that prepared me for that moment. It happened when I was 8 years old and my mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer. For 5 years, in her late 20s and early 30s, I watched her do the most remarkable thing. She lived knowing that she would never see her children grow up to do what you're doing now, graduating and embarking on life's journey. She knew she wasn't going to be around to help us with the big milestones and the big decisions in our lives, so she spent the last few years of her life teaching us to trust our judgment and be confident. Confident that no matter what waves life threw at us, we could figure out how to get our heads above the water before we drown. Trust your judgment, she would say, you'll figure out the rest. And so just like you, I figured out UC San Diego and I graduated in 1987 with a degree in computer engineering from the Yacoub School. But that was only the beginning. Upon graduating, I worked as a programmer. It wasn't long before I found myself questioning the business decisions being made at the company. Decisions that affected the products we as engineers were creating. I figured it was because I wasn't savvy enough or experienced enough, or I simply didn't understand the business rationale. Or maybe I was just too young. Although I loved writing code and I still miss it today, I decided to join the dark side. I went into sales and marketing at another technology company so that I could learn. After 2 years of that, I still didn't quite get it. Either I didn't understand or the business decisions weren't good, and I decided that it was I didn't understand. Now, the comfortable thing would have been, of course, to keep quiet, go back to my work and take my comfortable salary, let the executives figure out the rest. But that's not what we're taught here at UCSD. As engineers, we're taught that it's our duty to question assumptions, to speak up when something doesn't seem right, to act when we see a problem, seek out answers and solutions even when it makes the situation uncomfortable. These are the lessons that come out of the Quebec Bridge tragedies. The lack of courage to make the situation uncomfortable led to unnecessary tragedy and avoidable loss of life. This tells us that we have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable in life, because when we get too comfortable, we're not pushing the envelope, we're not learning, we're not doing great things. I've always loved the phrase, that warm sense of everything going well is the body temperature at the center of the herd. And the center of the herd is not where we want to spend our lives. So I left the herd. I quit my job and went to graduate business school. My wife, Janine, who was building a wonderful career as a PR executive, also quit her job as we moved away from San Diego. The economy was horrible at the time, so she ended up working behind the jewelry counter at Nordstrom to put us through school. What an incredible sacrifice she made as we both jumped into the deep end of the pool, hoping we could find our way to the top of the water before we drown. After business school, I joined a technology business, helped build it up and then sold it before I went to work for a private equity company in San Francisco. Now, private equity is the industry that funds companies before they go public. It's a wonderful career and can be quite lucrative. And my timing could not have been more perfect. Every year, my salary kept going up and up and up. Now, for a guy who started with 2 boxes and a basketball, that seemed like a pretty good thing. But as time wore on, the fog of who I was and what I'd wanted to do with my life began to clear. And I realized that private equity was an individual sport, and I love team sports. Win or lose, I love being in the battle with a team of people trying our best to change the world. So, at the ripe old age of 39, I'd finally figured out what I wanted to do with my life, and I left the job that nobody leaves. I knew if I didn't leave private equity right then, I would never leave. The stakes would be too high, and I would spend my life making money, not making a difference. I remember building up the courage to tell Janine that I wanted to do this, and it would mean taking a 75% cut in pay. And her remarkable response, without hesitation, was, "Let's go." So again, we jumped. I took over one of the portfolio companies we just invested in. I'd never done anything like that before, and I probably wasn't qualified. After a month, I realized that to save the company, I needed to aggressively reduce expenses. So I focused the business and made some hard decisions to cut expenses and tighten our belts, both at the company and at home. For years, Janine and I moved money around on credit cards to pay for our expanding family. We'd find cards that had interest-free grace periods for balance transfers, and we'd just move our debt around, hoping that someday we could solve it. Parents, for the record, I do not recommend this form of personal cash management. But 5 years later, we sold the businesses for well over $100 million. The payday was nice because it helped put a stop to the traveling debt, but it was the team effort and the challenge and the discomfort that was the real reward. I could not get enough of that feeling. I had figured it out. I joined Lytx in 2008. Prior to my arrival, the company had 7 straight quarters of $5 million per quarter loss. And at the time, it had $8 million in the bank. That meant we had a quarter and a half to figure it out. So why would I join? Well, the market was enormous, and the product was terrific. And there was an element of joining something greater than myself, which was saving lives. Unfortunately, at the time, just like the Quebec Bridge tragedies, we were just going with the flow. We weren't willing to embrace the discomfort of doing what we knew was right. So in 2009, we changed that. We focused our business on our core markets. We began holding ourselves accountable. And once again, we reduced expenses or we reduced salaries to save the company. This was the same challenge as before, just on a much, much bigger scale. Within 2 quarters, we went from bleeding $5 million per quarter to making $2 million in positive cash. Over the last decade, our company's value has gone from essentially worthless to nearly $2 billion today. We now find ourselves the largest subscription software company in San Diego, and our technology saves thousands of lives a year by preventing commercial vehicle collisions. While leading a multi-billion-dollar company is rewarding, again, it's the challenge, the teamwork, and the discomfort, to me, that is far more rewarding. When I think back on all the big decisions I've made, starting with the one to come to school here at UC San Diego, I realize they all have one thing in common. I've always pursued things that interested me, even if it meant giving up being comfortable and diving into situations where I didn't know the outcome. In most every decision, I was probably not qualified to do what I was trying to do, but Janine and I would jump anyway. The secret I found is to start early in life, because with age, it gets harder. It gets harder to take that leap of faith. As we grow older, it gets to the point where we can find ourselves paralyzed because the stakes are simply too high. And we tell ourselves we can't afford the risk. And this is where regret can creep in. Every time I jump, it was always harder than I expected. It would take longer than I expected. The pools were deeper than I expected, and certainly the waves were stronger than I expected. But ultimately, things would work out. And I came to realize the more effort I put into something, the happier I would be. And so I figured out it was the inputs more than the outputs that were life's rewards. This was the brilliance of my mom's advice. Just by jumping in, you're more than halfway there. As my mom said, trust your judgment, you'll figure out the rest. There's a song by Billy Joel about people who stay far away from doors. They hear a voice in the hall outside and hope that it just passes by. Some people are so afraid of what could happen, they do nothing. But I can tell you, the reward on the other side of that fear is remarkable. So my hope for you is that you answer every knock, you open every door, dive into every pool that interests you, and take on every wave that's going to knock you over. Trust your judgment, you'll figure out the rest. Along the way, never waver from what you know is right, and somehow, find a way to get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's an amazing way to go through life. You are the future leaders of our businesses, of our community, of our country, and of our world, and you deserve nothing less. So congratulations to the Yacoub School of Engineering class of 2018. I look forward to seeing many of you in the deep end of the pool as we struggle together to get our heads above the water. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nixon, for your insightful words and illuminating perspective. I deeply resonate with getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. You know, learning doesn't have to stop after we graduate, and I think that's really the key to that. And it is by the wisdom of alumni such as Mr. Nixon that the pathway forward becomes clear. Mr. Nixon, your words capture the true spirit of a Triton and what we should all strive for. Next up, I would like to invite our student keynote speaker, Nadah Feteih, to the podium. Please join me in welcoming her.
Good evening, everyone. It's an honor and a privilege to be standing here with you all today. I want to first take a moment to thank the faculty, staff, family, and friends that have joined us in celebration. Now, to my fellow graduates, to the class of 2018, tonight we will all be leaving the ceremony as graduates of the Yacoub School of Engineering. As engineers, we've spent the last few years learning how to solve problems. Realistically speaking, most of these problems we've probably created for ourselves. Like walking into your final after missing the last 2 labs, 3 quizzes, and somehow leaving every lecture even more confused than when you entered it, but still deciding to spend the past hour before the exam calculating the minimum number of points you need to pass. But in these last few years, we've learned how to solve real problems by thinking logically, analyzing complex systems, designing innovative solutions, and learning how to properly debug seg faults. And no, adding more print statements is not going to help. We've also learned that there are even greater problems in this world that need solving. Teams that have worked for quarters in the Global Ties program, designing life-saving lanterns, or building solar water heaters for orphanages in Mexico, or participating in a NASA-led competition through CEDS to create the first student-built satellite to orbit the moon. But tonight, I want to focus on the impact that each of us can have in our more immediate surroundings, and some of the problems that we can solve that we may not have previously considered. The fact that we are here today is an inspiration. We will be graduates of one of the top engineering schools in the nation. We've taken classes with world-renowned faculty and are surrounded by cutting-edge labs and research. There's also those of us that have had the privilege of living that Silicon Valley intern lifestyle, where we would spend the afternoon biking around the Googleplex, jumping into ball pits, and cafe hopping, eating all of that free food, all the while being compensated generously. However, I began to realize that there is a reality outside of this bubble that we have been living in these last 2 years. Last year, I had the opportunity to visit Crawford High School, just a 30-minute drive from UCSD, and had the chance to speak to a little theater of students. As I started speaking about my journey, the things I had learned as a computer science major, the internships I had done, and the projects I'd worked on, the room was silent and the students were mesmerized. Only after speaking to them did I learn that they were silent because they never realized that these opportunities existed. 97% of these students are socioeconomically disadvantaged and may have had no vision of themselves succeeding as engineers. We talk a lot about how, as an engineer, you can change the world, but sometimes neglect the fact that being an engineer can also change your world. I know that each of us has our own story of how we made it here today, and what we may take for granted now can make the world of a difference for someone else. My older sister is a social worker, and the lives that we lead are vastly different. Her career path and day-to-day work is focused on human services and social justice. Her work produces social good. Our work as engineers produces technology, structures, and machines. And I still remember my concerns as I began my studies in computer science that the work I would be doing would be disconnected from the world I was living in and wouldn't have the same social impact that her work does. But in these last few years, I've found that these two worlds, in fact, are not mutually exclusive, and that we can use our privilege as engineers to impact social good as well. I've learned that there are some problems that can't be solved by building an app, and that sometimes our biggest impact can come from the interactions we have with each other as individuals. I know I can't be the only one to say this, but it would have been almost impossible to get through these last 2 years on our own. We've tutored each other, debated over complicated problem sets, and spent late nights in the lab questioning our life decisions. And each of our little successes along the way did not happen in isolation and can be attributed to the support and guidance that we've received from the people that are around us. I still remember when my computer architecture professor, who also happens to be chair of the department, asked me if I would consider pursuing a PhD. For someone to have that much confidence in you when you yourself are unsure of what you're capable of is incredibly meaningful. A few months ago, one of the high school students I was working with, who was advanced in math, firmly believed that she could not code. But after some encouragement, she realized it was something she was good at and wanted to pursue. In its essence, these individuals and the relationships that we have with each other contributes to our engagement with the community as a whole and goes beyond what we may perceive as our responsibilities and commitments as engineers. Within the next hour, we will be presented our engineering rings, and each of us will make a commitment that our skill and knowledge shall be given without reservation for the public good. Even though most of us won't remember the material that was on that final 2 days ago, I know that the skills and experiences that we've gained during our time at UCSD has the potential to transcend any of our next jobs. We each have the obligation to give our time and effort toward causes that are even greater than our own personal accomplishments. We can use our talents to give back to our communities, whether that be giving our time to visit underserved schools and hold workshops, or teaching the fundamentals of engineering design and construction as job skills to our unemployed neighbors. And as we take our next steps, whether we choose to work in industry, pursue graduate school, or something entirely different, let us remember to invest our time. Let us remember to invest our time beyond our technical careers and to realize the influence that we can have on the people that are around us. Let us take a step outside of our engineering bubble and think about how we can engage with our communities in a meaningful way, inspiring the next generation, or using our problem-solving skills in the realm of public service. I am confident in our abilities to expand the scope of our contributions into the real world that we are entering. Once again, congratulations to the class of 2018. We made it, and I can't wait to see what we do next. Thank you.
Okay, Nadah, thank you very, very much again for sharing your experiences at Yacoub's with us. Maybe you told me a little bit too much about what's really going on in the corridors, but I'll try to have a blind eye as I walk through the corridors and just let it happen the way it's been happening. Okay, so we are very proud of our alumni, and we would like now to take this opportunity to honor our future alumni, our graduating students, our outstanding faculty, and the inspiring student leaders that we have. Together, their contributions help define the engineering community as the committed and innovative people that we are. So first, we will present our department awards for excellence in leadership and service, and these will be awarded to graduates, one from each department. So awardees, remember, after you get your award, stay on the stage, don't go running off. We'll have a quick photograph when everyone's together at the end of all the awardees, and then I'll ask you all to come down off the stage. All right, so we're ready. Who's handing out the awards? Are we ready? Excellent, good. All right, so the department awards. The Excellence in Leadership and Service Award for Bioengineering goes to Christine Q. Christine? All right, we'll do a volume check with the next department. The award for Computer Science and Engineering goes to Victor Chen. Okay. The award for Electrical and Computer Engineering all right, you tried. Goes to Samuel Sunarjo. The next award is in Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering. That's my home department. Jacob Ruthizer, why don't you come on up? The award in Nano Engineering. Okay, Eduardo Marin, come on up. And Structural Engineering? Okay, Arash Rohani, why don't you come on up? All right, and at this moment, I would also like to acknowledge our Electrical and Computer Engineering Department Student Service Award winners. Hamna Khan, why don't you come on up? And Mathir Saifi. All right, awardees, come on to the center of the stage.
All right, guys, here we go. Hold that. One more. Good.
Hey, all right, thanks. All right. Congratulations, everybody. Okay, you're all set. Good going. All right, to all the awardees, thanks for your noteworthy service and your exemplary efforts as members of the Yacoub School of Engineering. Now we're going to do now we will have the Yacoub School-wide Awards. So there are also 3 Yacoub School-wide Awards that we would like to present this evening. The first is the Idea Award for Leadership in Diversity and Inclusion, the Student of the Year Award, and the Faculty of the Year Award. So same drill as before. Awardees, come on up when we call you. Please accept the award. Don't leave, hang around, and then we'll get a photograph at the end. So, the Idea Award for Leadership in Diversity and Inclusion is a prestigious honor that goes to an outstanding leader dedicated to building community and supporting diversity at the Yacoub School. This person has made the mission of the Idea Engineering Student Center come to life with their efforts to promote inclusion, diversity, excellence, and achievement. And this year's award goes to Leah Ginther. Okay, the Student of the Year Award is presented to an exceptional leader who has made major contributions in support of the Yacoub School community and vision. This student was nominated by graduating peers here at the school, and this year's award goes to Connor Smith. Now, the Faculty of the Year Award this faculty member was nominated by our graduating seniors as the most outstanding faculty of the academic year. This person has won over the hearts and minds of the students, impacting them in more ways than just teaching. And this year's Faculty of the Year Award goes to Mark Anderson from Mechanical and Aero Engineering.
Awardees on the outside. Don't worry about it, it's fine. It's good. Just trying to make it organized, that's all. It's good how it is. That's perfect, guys.
We're organized enough. That's how we roll in this school.
All right, hey, good. Congratulations. All right, good going, guys. Love the cheering. No, not again. All right, hey, good.
All right. All right. So I want to congratulate everyone who's received an award, and to continue, I think I'm going to invite up Nadah Feteih one more time to the stage, and I'm going to ask her to lead us in the recitation of the oath.
Okay. Thank you, Dean Pizanno, for the opportunity to lead us in the oath. Graduates, please open up your programs to the last page so we may recite the oath together. Everyone ready? Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. As a graduate of the Yacoub School of Engineering, I pledge to use my knowledge for the public good, to innovate for the advancement of humanity, and to be accountable to future generations. As a member of the engineering community, I dedicate myself to lifelong learning and to the growth of my field. I promise to always conduct myself with honor and to uphold the strong ethical values instilled in me by the Yacoub School. I accept this ring as a symbol of this oath. Thank you. I'd like to invite Dean Pizanno back to the podium to start the presentation of the rings. I don't know about all of you, but this is the only ring I've been waiting for.
I'll just say I'll make no comment. Okay. This is the moment I've been waiting for as well. The presentation of the rings is a big, big deal. I've been doing this now. This is my 5th event, and it gets better every year. What I'd like to do to get started is to invite our keynote speaker, Brandon Nixon, to the podium so we may begin. Brandon, will you join me here? It's the only time a captain of industry ever listens to a dean. But thank you, I appreciate it. Just this once. Brandon, on behalf of the Yacoub School of Engineering and the class of 2018, I would like to present you with the Yacoub's ring to forever connect you with our school as an outstanding alumnus and an exceptional role model for our future engineers. Brandon, here it comes.
Shake my hand over to the photographer. And we're not that way. You're in? Okay, thanks. All right. Sit in the sunshine instead of the shade.
I was mentioning to Brandon, you know, I came to give you an award. You came to receive an award as well as give a speech, and then I stuck him behind a plant. All right, so sorry about that, folks. That seating chart looked good just before we put the plant there. But Brand, I think you're out in the open now. Okay, good. All right. That is, he is proud of the ring, right? He's not hiding behind a plant anymore? Okay, good. Okay. So I'm going to invite the seniors to the stage to be presented with your ring. Don't all rush at once. Beginning with the front rows on the left and right sections. The ushers will start guiding you. I'm going to stand in the middle and I'll turn back and forth to each of you to put the lanyard upon your neck. Be aware that when I shake your hand, if you look at the photographer, she'll actually get a picture of your face. So give it a shot. Here we go.